My daughter is sleeping with us. Mother-in-law, don't call me in the middle of the night like this.
When I heard about my granddaughter Cynthia, my son's wife yelled at me, but that Cynthia is now next to me. It's past midnight when it's snowing softly outside, when only 7 years old came to my house in barefoot. What's wrong?
Grandma, I'm so cold.
Cynthia's body is shaking, and her legs are painfully red. I embraced her in my arms and rushed into the house to give her a bath. And in the meantime, I called my daughter-in-law. I was surprised and confused by her unexpected words. And the next moment I heard a strange voice in my ears. I'm Dina, 58 years old. I've been living alone since I lost my husband 3 years ago, and I am the landlord of the condominium I inherited from my husband. My only son, Kieran, married Hazley 8 years ago and has a granddaughter, Cynthia, who entered primary school this year. As my son and his family live a 10-minute drive from my house, they used to come to my house with my son driving every time. I can't help but think that my granddaughter who sticks to me and doesn't leave me is cute. 6 months ago, it was decided that my son would be posted overseas, but the period was 1 year. It seems that he decided to go alone because of the school of Cynthia. I decided to support my son's decision because he cares about his family. However, as soon as my son left US, my daughter-in-law, who had came to my house so often, no longer showed up. One evening when I was lonely because I couldn't see my granddaughter, when I happened to pass by my son's house, I saw Cynthia playing in the garden alone with her school bag on her back. Cynthia, are you alone? Where is your mommy?
I can't enter home because Mom went to work.
As my granddaughter said, the house was locked, and she was always waiting alone for Hazley to come home. It was the first time I learned that she, who was a stay-at-home mom, had started working. I couldn't leave Cynthia alone as it was, so when I took her home and gave her a snack, my granddaughter was very happy.
When I say I want to have a snack, my mom gets angry. So I'm always patient.
I felt sorry for Cynthia, who was so young and endured, as I don't want my daughter-in-law to worry if she didn't know that my granddaughter was coming to the house. I left their answering machine saying that I was keeping Cynthia, and in the evening, while I was having dinner with my granddaughter, Hazley came to my house. As soon as she opened the door, she walked into the house without saying hello.
Cynthia, you can't go to your grandma's house without permission. Why can't you be a good girl?
Mom, I'm sorry.
My granddaughter, who was eating deliciously, put down her fork and looked downwards. So I felt sorry for her. Don't blame her because I brought her here. I'm sorry I brought her without permission.
Can you please stop doing this? Don't you think I'm like a bad mother?
That's not true. But if you tell me when you start working, I can take care of my grandchild. When I says that, my daughter-in-law changes her attitude suddenly.
What? Is that true? Thank you. It's very helpful.
Yes, of course.
Hooray! I can have Grandma's delicious meal.
I was happy to see my granddaughter overjoyed, but I was concerned about the steely look in Hazley's eyes as she looked at Cynthia, who praised my cooking. From the next day, Cynthia started coming straight home from school when my daughter-in-law was at work. Moreover, When Hazley comes to pick up my granddaughter after work, she became eating dinner before I knew it.
Eck, what is this? It's light flavored and doesn't taste good. Cynthia, you don't have to force yourself to eat, do you?
Grandma's food is delicious, isn't it? She didn't cook it in the microwave like my mom. It's amazing.
Cynthia, don't say unnecessary things. Mommy is busy, unlike Grandma. Look, we're going home.
My daughter-in-law, who was clearly in a bad mood, left the house before my granddaughter without making eye contact with me at all. Cynthia looked anxious and tugged at my clothes as if she wanted to say something. What's wrong?
Hey, Grandma. What's wrong with Mommy? Cynthia's fault.
I gently hugged my granddaughter, whose eyes were watering with tears. No, Grandma knows that Cynthia is a good girl.
Yes, thank you. I'll be back.
Cynthia smiles and waves at me. I became more and more worried about Cynthia because I heard my daughter-in-law yelling from outside the front door to hurry Cynthia, and she said, "I can trust when I have a daughter," and left Cynthia with me on her days off from work. Not only that, but she even pushed me to attend my granddaughter's school events. Hazley, I can't go to Parents' Day next week because there is a neighborhood association meeting. I'm sorry.
Mother-in-law, isn't your granddaughter adorable? I don't think you're going to put your own business ahead of Cynthia.
I was dissatisfied with my daughter-in-law, who raised her voice, but I didn't want to mess with her, and I had no choice but to skip the neighborhood association meeting and participate in my granddaughter's event. Still, Hazley didn't say a single word of thanks. One day, it happened. The doorbell rang in the middle of the night when it was snowing. So I opened the door and found Cynthia stood in barefoot. Surprised, I asked my granddaughter what had happened, but Cynthia cried.
I can't do it because my mom will get angry.
Just say so. It's okay now. It's cold, isn't it? Let's warm up first. My granddaughter nodded with a shudder, and I gave her a bath and hurriedly called my daughter-in-law. I'm sorry in the middle of the night. It's about Cynthia. But, however, Hazley interrupts me with a grumpy voice.
My daughter is sleeping with me. It's insane to call me at 1 o'clock. I'll have work tomorrow, so I'm going to cut it off.
I was told so unilaterally, but it seems that she did not hang up the phone properly. Just as I was about to press the end button, I heard her voice on the other end of the phone.
I'm sorry. My mother-in-law is so nagging that I don't like it.
You're having a hard time, too.
That's right. I wonder if my daughter and mother-in-law will go somewhere like my husband, who was posted alone. Then I could be with you forever.
So, are you going to divorce and become my wife? Instead, you have to get rid of that kid.
Okay, promise, right? I love you much more than my husband.
When she said that, I heard a suspicious voice on the other end of the phone, and I was stunned. What are you doing when you're leaving your own daughter alone? I was angry with my daughter-in-law one after another. I wonder how Cynthia has endured so far. When I thought about it, I felt so sorry for her that I couldn't stop crying. My granddaughter has said in her sleep, "Mommy, I'm sorry." In the end, Hazley blurted out that she was with Cynthia, and I didn't hear from her until the next morning. I'll never forgive her. I vowed to thoroughly punish Hazley. The next day, after sending my granddaughter to elementary school, I decided to collect evidence of my daughter-in-law's infidelity. When I went very close to my son's home, I found Hazley and a man who was perfectly close to her. I secretly followed them and saw the two of them entering the house.
Don't you have to look for the kid?
It's okay because she's at my mother-in-law's place, and I can't relax with you when she is there, so she's a hindrance.
I was offended by the conversation between the two of them. She's crazy to treat her daughter as a hindrance. I was stunned, but my heart ached to see Cynthia happy when she picked up her at the elementary school. That evening, I finally got a message from my daughter-in-law.
I have a cold, and I don't want to pass it on to my daughter, so please take care of her until it heals.
I knew she was lying, but I just replied, "Take care of yourself." From that day on, my granddaughter went to school from my house. 3 days later, after Cynthia went to school, I went to my son's house, and when I went inside, I found a man's shoes at the door. I would sneak a peek at the gap in the bedroom door that was a little empty. As I thought, there was a wife and an affair partner in the bed. I started recording on my phone, but the two of them didn't notice, so I approached the bed with a hood and glaring at each other. Hazley screamed when her eyes met mine, and she hurriedly pulled her to cover her body with the blanket she had pulled.
What's this old bag?
Mother-in-law.
Huh.
Nice to meet you. It seems that you are always taking care of my daughter-in-law. Even if he wanted to make excuses, he was silent in a situation where he couldn't do it. How long are you guys going to be looked like that? When I said that, the two of them, who were in their natural form, hurriedly got dressed.
Mother-in-law, please don't tell my husband about this.
Why, you're going to leave my son and abandon my granddaughter to be with him, right?
Huh? Such a thing. I didn't say that.
It's no use blurting out, because there's proof of it. I told her that I had recorded a phone call that my daughter-in-law thought she hung up.
I can't believe you've been listening to me all this time.
That's all you want to say. You're Cynthia's mother. And yet, how did that child feel when she came home alone? Why can't you think of it? I imagined my granddaughter's face and held back tears.
It's her fault. Who disappeared before I knew it?
If she cares so much about that kid, why don't you give it to her?
That's not bad either. She's very fond of my mother-in-law.
Just when I thought it was useless to tell my daughter-in-law anything more, the bedroom door opened violently.
Hazley, enough.
The yelling of my son, who was listening to the whole thing outside the room, echoed, and the daughter-in-law freezes while looking at him.
Oh, you. Why are you here?
My mom called me to tell me all about you, and I went back home for this day. You're the worst wife and mother.
No, it's not. It's a misunderstanding.
So I guess you can properly explain why you left my daughter alone and cheated on me.
It's
The daughter-in-law, who was stuck for words, glanced at the cheating partner, but he pretended ignorance.
Hey, say something.
Even if you say that, if your husband comes out, I won't be able to say anything.
That's enough. I'm divorcing you. I'm not going to let you see Cynthia again, and I'm going to get child support so you can do whatever you want.
Oh, that's it. Then I'll take her in.
I couldn't help but say this to my daughter-in-law, who insisted on such a thing under this situation. How are you going to grow Cynthia when you don't even work? When I said that, Hazley pursed her lips as if she was looking for an excuse. You lied that you were working to make time with this person, right? My daughter-in-law didn't say anything, and when she saw the cheating partner, he was about to leave the house, but my son stood in front of him and glared at him.
You're going to run away despite you're also responsible. Don't you have an ID? Give me that now.
He looked at my son with a sharp look and reluctantly handed over his license. As soon as I took a picture of it and gave it back to the cheating partner, he ran away.
Hey, wait, don't leave me alone.
The daughter-in-law, who was left behind by her cheating partner, cried, "You need to get out of this house right now."
Mother-in-law, honey, I am sorry. I'm not going to do this again.
I can't forgive you.
I was just lonely.
I don't want to hear excuses.
When my son said that, he confronted his wife with the divorce papers he had prepared. I couldn't sit back and watch her cry even more violently. Motherhood doesn't end when you have a child. If you choose to be a woman over your own child, you are a disqualified mother.
What's that? Mother-in-law's way of thinking is old.
Loving your child is always the same. Well, if you think of your child as a nuisance, you'll never know. When I said that, my daughter-in-law clung to my leg.
Mother-in-law, I'm sorry. I'm going to take good care of Cynthia from now on. So please forgive me.
I can't do it. It's divine justice. When I pushed her away, she kept her head down and didn't say anything back. Then she gave up and signed the divorce papers. Then the daughter-in-law did not come to see Cynthia and immediately leave home. After that, the two divorced, and the son demanded $30,000 in alimony from his ex-wife and her cheating partner. Hazley was isolated from her parents when they found out about the affair and was kicked out of her parents' house. She was also abandoned. abandoned by her cheating partner. So they said that she was moving from one acquaintance's house to another. She now threw herself into the town at night to pay the alimony and child support billed by my son. Then, my son told the company about the situation and decided to quit his overseas assignment and work in US. Then he decided to sell the apartment they were living in and live with me in my house. When I told Cynthia about it, she readily accepted, saying, "I wouldn't be lonely if I had my dad and grandma." I am now busy with my life centered on my grandchild, but I feel pleasant and happy every day. I love Cynthia, who laughs more than before, with all my might, and vows to be by her side at all